My name is Luke Harris, and the last time someone asked me if I was good in bed, I almost told them the truth that had been buried in my chest for 4 years. I live alone on a small horse ranch outside Boulder, Colorado. It's the kind of place where the nights are quiet enough to hear your own thoughts, and sometimes that is the worst kind of noise. People in town know me as the quiet guy. The one who works hard, fixes things without asking for help, and never brings anyone home. What they do not know is that I talk more to a grave than I do to any living person. Her name was Hannah. And for 4 years, she has been the only woman I have belonged to. Then Olivia moved in next door. She showed up 8 months ago with a rented truck, too many boxes, and this look in her eyes like she was trying to start over but did not know how. The first time I saw her, she was standing in her driveway, staring at a broken fence post like it had personally offended her. She had her hair tied up messy, sunscreen not fully rubbed in, and jeans that were too clean for ranch life. She waved at me like we were already neighbors. I nodded once and went back to work. That was how it stayed for months. Small waves in the morning, quick hellos at the feed store, her trying to figure out ranch life, me pretending not to notice her watching me when I worked with the horses. She watched closely, too closely, like she was studying me, and I avoided her just enough to not be rude but enough to stay safe. It is easier that way. It is easier to stay quiet than to explain why your heart stopped working years ago. Then came the 4th of July barbecue. My foreman Mike practically forced me to go, said I needed to be around real people again, not just memories. So I went. I stood there with a plate I did not want and a beer I was not drinking, watching couples laugh, watching people live, like it came easy to them. That is when Olivia walked in. And for the first time since Hannah died, something in my chest shifted. She wore a white sundress and boots that finally looked broken in. Her hair was down, catching the light, and when she passed by me, she smelled like citrus and smoke. "Hey, neighbor," she said, smiling like we had known each other longer than we had. "You clean up nice." I forgot how to speak for a second. "You too," I said. We ended up sitting at the same long table. That is how small towns work. You do not get to choose who you sit next to. The night went on. Music played. Kids ran around with sparklers. People laughed louder as the sky turned darker. And Olivia kept looking at me, not in a casual way, in a way that felt like she was trying to understand something about me. Then it happened, out of nowhere, in front of everyone. She leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes locked on mine, and said it. "You seem like you are good in bed. Are you married?" Quote. The whole table went silent. Someone dropped a fork. Mike nearly choked on his drink. Every eye turned to me. Olivia froze the second the words left her mouth. Her face turned red, and she tried to take it back. But it was too late. And I had a choice. I could laugh it off, make a joke, be normal. But I have not been normal for a long time, so I told the truth. "No, ma'am," I said. "I am not married." Then I paused and said the words I had not said out loud in years. "I am still waiting for her." The air changed. People shifted in their seats. Some looked away. Some stared. Olivia's expression changed from embarrassment to something else, something softer, something confused. "I did not know," she said quietly. "I am sorry." I nodded once. "You did not do anything wrong." But I did not explain. I did not tell her that my wife had been dead for 4 years, that when I said I was waiting, I meant I was stuck, that every time I looked at another woman, it felt like betrayal. The rest of the night passed, but it felt different. The laughter never fully came back, and when the fireworks started, I left, like I always do. I drove to the cemetery, the one place where I do not have to pretend. Hannah's grave sits under an old oak tree, simple stone. Simple words. Love is a promise you keep, even when it hurts. I knelt down like I always do. "Hey, baby," I said softly, "you would have laughed tonight." I told her everything about Olivia, about the question, about the way it made something in my chest feel alive again. And that scared me more than anything. I told her I was waiting for you, I said, but I do not even know what I am waiting for anymore. The wind moved through the trees, and for a moment it was just me and the silence. Then I heard footsteps behind me, soft, careful, like someone did not want to be heard. I did not turn right away. "You can come out," I said quietly. "How long have you been listening?" Quote. There was a pause, then her voice. "Long enough." I turned, and there she was, Olivia, standing in the dark, just a few feet away. No makeup, hair tied up, hoodie thrown over her dress like she had run out without thinking. Her eyes were glossy, like she had heard more than she was ready for. "Olivia," I said, "you should not be here." She gave a small, shaky laugh. "People say that about me a lot." She stepped closer, careful around the graves. She looked at Hannah's name, and something in her softened. "I did not know," she said again. I nodded. "I figured." There was a quiet moment between us, heavy but not uncomfortable. Then she looked at me in a way that felt different from before. More direct, more real. "I thought you meant something else," she said. "What do you mean?" Quote. "I thought you were one of those men waiting for the perfect woman to show up," she said. "Not someone who is stuck." That word hit harder than it should have. "That is not romantic," I said. "It is just stuck." She nodded slowly. "I know." She took a breath, then said something that changed everything. "I have been watching you for 8 months, Luke." That should have sounded strange, but it did not. It sounded honest. "I see how you treat your horses," she said. "How patient you are. How you fix things that look too broken to bother with." Her eyes held mine. "But when it comes to people, you shut down." I did not answer, because she was right. "And when I asked you that question," she added, her cheeks flushing again, "I was not really asking about sex." Quote. I frowned slightly. "Then what were you asking?" Quote. She hesitated, then said it. "I wanted to know if you remembered how to be present." The words hung between us, heavy, real. "Because right now," she said softly, "you are not living. You are just staying." I swallowed, and for the first time in a long time, I did not feel like running away. I did not answer her right away. The truth was sitting in my chest, heavy and familiar, but speaking it felt like pulling open a wound I had spent years trying to keep closed. Olivia stood a few feet away from me beneath the oak tree, the soft moonlight tracing the outline of her face. She looked fragile in that moment, but there was strength in the way she held her ground, like someone who had learned how to stand back up after being knocked down too many times. "You are not living," she had said. "You are just staying." I let out a slow breath and looked down at Hannah's grave. The words carved into the stone felt different tonight, less like chains and more like a promise I had misunderstood. "She made me promise," I said quietly. Olivia stepped closer, her boots brushing softly against the gravel. "Promise what?" "That I would not shut myself off," I said. "That I would not treat grief like a wedding vow." She knew me too well. She knew I would build walls and call them loyalty. Olivia's eyes softened. "And you did." I nodded. I thought I was honoring her. I thought staying alone meant I was keeping my promise. But the truth is, I broke it the moment I stopped living. The night air was cool, carrying the faint scent of cut grass and dust. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called, and the sound echoed across the hills like a reminder that life kept moving whether we were ready or not. "And you?" I asked gently. "You did not move here just for the quiet." She hesitated, her fingers tightening around the sleeves of her hoodie. For a moment, I thought she would retreat behind a polite smile and walk away, but instead she sank down onto the grass across from me, crossing her legs like she belonged there. "I ran," she said simply. The word hung between us. "I left Dallas 8 months ago," she continued. "I left a man who said he loved me but spent most of his time trying to control me. At first it was small things. Who I should talk to, what I should wear, where I should work. He said he was protecting me." Her voice trembled, but she did not look away. "And then?" I asked quietly. "And then he started deciding who I was allowed to be," she said. "By the time he raised his hand, I was already so small inside that I thought I deserved it. My jaw tightened, anger burning through me like a slow fire. "He hit you?" I asked. She nodded once. Not at first, but it was always coming, and when it did, I told myself it was my fault, that if I were better, quieter, easier to love, he would go back to the man he pretended to be in the beginning. I clenched my fists against my knees. "Is that why you moved here?" "My aunt left me the house next to yours," she said. "When I got the call about the will, it felt like a lifeline. Land he did not know about. A town he had no connection to. I packed my things while he was at work and drove straight here. I never looked back." She gave a small, humorless smile. "Until tonight." I watched her carefully. "What did you mean earlier?" "When you asked if I was good in bed." Her cheeks flushed even in the dim light, but she held my gaze. "I was not talking about sex," she said. "I was asking if you remembered how to be present, if you could touch someone without owning them or worshiping them like they were something sacred. If there was still a man in you who was not married to a ghost." Her words settled deep inside me, painful and honest. "I am not married," I said quietly. She lifted her chin toward Hannah's grave. "You may not have a legal wife, Luke, but you are married to this, to the guilt, to the promise you think you broke." A flicker of anger moved through me, not because she was wrong, but because she was right. "You do not know what promise I made," I said. She nodded slowly. "You are right. I do not." "Maybe you should tell me." I looked down at the headstone, tracing Hannah's name with my eyes. "When she was dying," I began, my voice rough, "we had too much time to talk. The doctors told us the truth. The cancer had spread. We were not leaving that hospital together." Olivia's eyes filled with quiet understanding. She took my hand and made me promise I would not close myself off. I continued. "She said she knew me, said I would build a wall around my heart and call it loyalty. She made me swear I would fall in love again one day, that I would not let her death be the end of my life." My throat tightened as I spoke the words aloud. "And then she died," Olivia whispered. "And then she died," I repeated. "And it turns out it is easy to make promises in a hospital room, and a lot harder to keep them when every time you look at another woman, you feel like you are cheating on a ghost." Olivia was silent for a long moment, her gaze steady and kind. "So instead of breaking your promise," she said slowly, "you broke it your own way. You promised you would love again, but you spent 4 years waiting for her to give you permission." Quote, her words hit me like a truth I'd always known but never dared to face. "You are waiting for a woman who cannot answer," she continued gently. "If she wanted you to be miserable forever, she would not have made you promise the opposite." The wind stirred through the branches above us, carrying the scent of summer and memory. "You talk like you know something about being married to pain," I said quietly. She let out a long breath and looked down at her hands. "I do." Her voice softened. "I left someone who liked the idea of owning a wife more than loving one. I never made it to the wedding, thank God, but we came close enough that getting away almost killed me." My chest tightened. "He is the reason you moved here?" "Part of it," she said. "But when I saw you out there with those horses, talking to them gently, fixing things without giving up on them, I wondered if there was a kind of man I had never known before. One who could touch without taking, one who could be present." Her eyes met mine, filled with vulnerability. "That question at the barbecue is not a joke," she admitted. "It was a test. I wanted to know if the man I have been half falling for from my kitchen window even exists." My breath caught. "That is not fair," I said quietly. She nodded, tears shining in her eyes. "I know. It is not fair to ask a grieving man to save me from my past. But tonight, when I heard you ask your wife for a sign, I thought maybe this was mine too. That maybe I am allowed to stop being married to fear." Before I could answer, headlights swept slowly across the cemetery gates. Olivia went rigid beside me, her hand gripping the grass as her breath caught in her chest. "Olivia?" I asked. "What is it?" Quote, her voice came out as a whisper, barely audible. "He found me." My heart dropped. "What?" Her eyes were fixed on the dark road beyond the iron fence, wide with fear. "Oh, God," she whispered. "He found me." I turned and saw the car parked just outside the cemetery, low, black, and out of place in our quiet town. The driver's door opened and a tall man stepped out like he owned the night. His dark hair was slicked back. His shirt was expensive. His shoes had never seen mud. And when his eyes landed on Olivia, he smiled. "There you are," he called smoothly. "Liv, you gave me quite the chase." Olivia's fingers tightened around my arm. "Luke," she whispered. "That's him." Ryan. He walked through the open gate as if the graveyard belonged to him, hands in his pockets, gaze fixed on her with a smile that never reached his eyes. "You had me worried," he said lightly. "No note, no goodbye. You hurt me, sweetheart." The way he said sweetheart made my stomach turn. "Ryan, you cannot be here," Olivia said, her voice trembling but steady. "It's over." He laughed softly. "You told me a lot of things. That you loved me. That you wanted a future, and then one day you vanished." He stepped closer. Without thinking, I moved in front of her. "This cemetery closes at dusk," I said evenly. "You should leave." Ryan's eyes flicked over me with mild amusement. "And who are you exactly?" he asked. "The neighbor with the nice hands?" Quote. He smirked and turned his attention back to Olivia. "I drove a long way to pick up what belongs to me," he said. "You, the house, the land. We can even make the cowboy useful." "I do not belong to you," Olivia said, louder now. Ryan's smile thinned. "We will see." He took another step toward her. I moved with him. "That is close enough," I said. His eyes met mine, cold and sharp. "You think you are protecting her," he said softly, "but you do not know her like I do." "Look at her," I replied quietly. "She does not want to go with you." For the first time, the charm slipped from his face, revealing something darker beneath. "I do not care what she thinks she wants," he said. "She is confused. She needs me." He reached for her, and I stepped fully between them. "You heard her," I said, my voice low and steady. She said no. Ryan's smile returned, thin and dangerous. "You gonna hit me, cowboy?" he asked softly. "In front of your wife's grave?" Olivia pressed her forehead against my back, trembling. "I do not want to fight," I said. "I want you to leave." Quote. He laughed quietly. "You want a lot of things you are not going to get." Then he turned toward his car. "Fine," he said. "If she will not come willingly, I will make this simple." He opened the door and reached inside. Something cold slid through my gut. The way he moved was wrong. Deliberate. Dangerous. "Olivia," I said quietly, "get behind the tree." She did not argue. She moved fast, pressing herself against the oak. Ryan straightened, slowly. In his hand was something dark. For a moment, I could not tell what it was. Then, the moonlight caught the metal. And my blood ran cold. It was a gun. The moonlight caught the metal in Ryan's hand, and for a second, the world felt like it had stopped breathing. It was a gun. Small. Dark. Casual in the way he held it, like it belonged there. Like he had carried it 100 times before and never once questioned why. "Easy," he said softly, stepping forward. "You really should have stayed out of this, Luke." My heart pounded hard enough to shake my ribs, but my voice did not tremble. Olivia was behind the oak tree, her back pressed to the rough bark. Hannah's headstone beside her like a shield. "You pull that trigger in this town," I said, keeping my eyes locked on his. "You are not walking away." Ryan smiled, slow and confident. "You think anyone is going to believe the runaway girl and the sad widower over me? I have money, lawyers, paperwork. You have dirt under your nails." I did not move. "I am giving you a chance to leave," he said lightly. "You can go back to talking to your dead wife and pretending that is enough. This is between me and Olivia." I thought of what would happen if I stepped aside. How quickly he would grab her. How easily fear would drag her back into the life she had barely escaped. I thought of coming back to this grave and telling Hannah that I had let another woman be hurt in front of her name. "No," I said quietly. "If you want her, you go through me." Ryan's smile widened, thin and cruel. "You are not a fighter, Luke. You are a caretaker, a gravekeeper. You do not scare me." He raised the gun. I moved. Grief had made me slow for years, heavy with memory and regret, but ranch work had made me strong. My body remembered what my heart had forgotten. I lunged for his wrist as he pulled the trigger. The shot shattered the silence of the graveyard, loud enough to make my ears ring. A burst of light flashed across the headstones, and the bullet struck the iron fence with a sharp metallic crack instead of flesh. We slammed into each other, boots sliding on the grass. His shoulder drove into my chest as my hands locked around his arm. He was taller, but I had leverage. We stumbled and fell, crashing against the ground near the row of graves. "Let go!" he snarled. "Drop the gun!" I grunted. We hit hard. The impact drove the air from my lungs. His elbow caught my jaw, pain exploding in a bright flash of white. The gun slipped from his hand, skidding across the dirt and stopping near a small angel statue a few graves away. "Olivia!" I gasped. "The gun!" She hesitated only a moment before running from behind the tree. Her knees hit the ground hard as she reached for it, scooping it up with both hands. Her arms trembled, but she held it steady, pointing it toward the dirt. Ryan saw her and went rigid. "You are not going to shoot me," he spat, shoving at my chest. "You do not have it in you." I wrapped my arms around his legs and yanked him back. He kicked, catching my ribs twice. Pain shot through my side, but I held on. "Stop!" I growled. "It is over." He laughed, breathless and bitter. "Nothing is over until I say it is." In the distance, faint but growing louder, I heard the sound of a siren. Headlights swept through the trees, cutting across the iron fence and scattering pale light over the graves. Ryan froze, his confidence cracking for the first time. "Drop it!" a voice shouted. Relief flooded through me as Sheriff Dale Cooper stepped out of his patrol truck, hand on his holster. Another deputy followed close behind, flashlight cutting through the darkness. "Everybody freeze," Dale commanded, his voice steady and firm. Olivia's hands shook as she held the gun. "Olivia," Dale said calmly, "I need you to set that weapon on the ground and step back." She nodded quickly, lowering herself to her knees and placing the gun carefully on the grass before stepping away with her hands raised. Ryan's posture changed instantly, his voice slipping back into smooth charm. "Sheriff," he said, almost relieved. "Thank God you are here. This man attacked me. I was simply trying to speak with my fiancée when he jumped me." "She is not my fiancée," Olivia said, her voice sharp and clear. Dale held up a hand without looking away from Ryan. "We will get to that," he said. "Right now, I need you away from the weapon and away from them." The deputy pulled Ryan to his feet and twisted his arms behind his back. "You cannot arrest me," Ryan snapped. "I have a permit. I was defending myself." Dale picked up the gun with 2 fingers, checked the chamber, and looked back at him. "Your property?" he asked calmly. "Because this cemetery belongs to the county, and as far as I know, the house next to Luke's ranch belongs to Miss Olivia Green." Quote. Ryan's confidence flickered. "And the woman you just aimed this at," Dale continued, "is under an active protective order out of Dallas County, Texas. One that names you as the respondent." Ryan's face went still. "That order crossed my desk 3 months ago," Dale added. "You followed her across 2 states, violated that order, and fired a weapon on county land. You think your lawyer is going to talk me out of doing my job?" He nodded to the deputy. "Cuff him." The metal snapped around Ryan's wrists before he could protest further. He was led toward the patrol truck, still insisting that everyone had misunderstood, that Olivia was unstable, that he was only trying to protect what belonged to him. His voice faded as the door slammed shut behind him. The night fell quiet again. Only the soft hum of the patrol engine and Olivia's uneven breathing remained. "You hurt?" Dale asked, turning to me. "I have been worse," I said, pushing myself to my feet. My ribs ached, my jaw throbbed, but I was still standing. "And you, Olivia?" he asked gently. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I am okay," she said. "I just want him gone." "He will be gone for a while," Dale assured her. "We will handle the rest with Texas in the morning. I will need statements from both of you." He glanced at Hannah's grave and shook his head with a faint smile. "You pick some dramatic places for your turning points, Harris." "I do my best," I replied quietly. When the patrol truck finally disappeared down the hill, red and blue lights fading into the distance, silence returned to the cemetery. Olivia stood in front of me, arms wrapped around herself, trembling now that the danger had passed. Her knees buckled slightly. I stepped forward and caught her before she could fall. She collapsed against my chest like she had been heading there all along. I wrapped my arms around her without thinking, holding her steady as her body shook with the release of fear. "I am sorry," she whispered into my shirt. "I am sorry I dragged you into this. I am sorry he came here. I am sorry I asked you that question." Quote, "You did not drag me anywhere," I said softly. "He came because that is what men like him do, and that question was not stupid." She pulled back just enough to look up at me, her eyes red and shining. "You still think I was right?" she asked, her voice trembling with a fragile hint of humor. I managed a small smile despite the ache in my jaw. "I think you might be good at asking the questions that matter." She laughed quietly, the sound soft and broken but real. "And you?" she asked. "Are you good at the things that matter?" I looked past her shoulder at Hannah's headstone. The flowers I had brought were still there, resting at the base of the stone beneath the words she had chosen herself. "Love is a promise you keep, even when it hurts." For the first time in 4 years, I understood what she meant. Keeping the promise did not mean staying frozen in grief. It meant living. I took a slow breath. "I made her a promise," I said quietly. Olivia's eyes softened. "That you would love again." I nodded. I thought I was honoring her by holding on. But tonight, I heard myself the way you heard me. I heard a man who forgot that being faithful to the dead does not mean refusing the living. The truth settled between us, gentle and undeniable. "I am not married anymore," I said softly. "Not to the stone, not to the guilt." Tears filled Olivia's eyes again, but they were different now, brighter, softer. "And me?" she asked quietly. "Am I still married to fear?" I brushed a tear from her cheek with my thumb. "Maybe," I said gently. "But you just stood your ground against the man who hurt you. That sounds like someone filing for divorce from fear." Her lips curved into a small, trembling smile. "You and your ranch metaphors," she whispered. "It is what I have," I replied. We stood there beneath the oak tree, two people who had spent years living with ghosts, finally standing together in the quiet. "Can I ask you something?" she said after a moment. "Yeah." "You told your wife you were waiting for a sign," she said, glancing at the headstone. "Do you think tonight was it?" Quote, I thought about the siren arriving just in time, about the way her voice had pulled me back into the world of the living, about the way something in my chest had woken when she looked at me under the lights of the barbecue. "Maybe the sign was not the drama," I said slowly. "Maybe it was you." Her smile softened. "You seem good in bed," she repeated gently. "Are you married?" I reached up and brushed a tear from her cheek. "No, ma'am," I said quietly. "I am not." And for the first time in 4 years, I meant it. For the first time in 4 years, I meant it. I was not married anymore. Not to the grave. Not to the guilt. Not to the promise I had misunderstood. Olivia stood in front of me beneath the old oak tree, her hand still resting lightly against my chest, as if she was making sure my heart was real and not just a memory. The night had grown quiet again, the danger gone, leaving only the soft rustle of leaves and the distant hum of the highway. "And me?" she asked softly. "Where do I fit in all of this?" Quote. I looked at Hannah's headstone behind her. The flowers I had placed there earlier lay still beneath the engraved words she had chosen herself. For years I had believed those words meant holding on to the pain. Tonight I finally understood they meant something else entirely. Love is a promise you keep, even when it hurts. Keeping that promise did not mean living alone forever. It meant honoring the love we shared by living the life she had wanted for me. "You do not replace her," I said quietly. "No one ever could. But you are not supposed to. You are something new, something living, something real." Olivia's eyes filled with tears, but they were not heavy with sorrow anymore. They shone with relief, with hope. "I am not asking you to save me, Luke," she said gently. "I am asking you to stand beside me while I save myself. I want to learn how to want again without being afraid. I want to learn what it feels like to be touched without being owned." Her words settled deep in my chest, warm and steady. "I am rusty," I admitted with a faint smile. "I have spent a long time talking to ghosts. But I can try." Quote. She slipped her fingers into mine, her hand warm and sure. "Then take me home, neighbor," she said softly. "Not to him, not to who I was, to who we might be." We walked down the hill together, leaving the iron fence and the quiet graves behind us. The night air was cooler now, but it did not feel cold anymore. 2 trucks waited at the bottom of the road, mine and hers, parked beneath a sky full of steady stars. At the fork where our driveways split, we stopped. "Coffee?" I asked. "I make a decent pot when it is after midnight and the world has been on fire." She smiled, her eyes bright with something gentle and new. "Only if you sit with me on the porch," she said, "and promise we can talk about anything but guns and graves for one night." "We can talk about horses," I offered with a small grin. She laughed softly. "We can talk about what being good in bed really means." I swallowed, my heart beating harder now for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. "I thought we agreed that meant being present," I said. "Listening, not rushing." "Exactly," she replied. "So we will start with coffee, and maybe one day we work our way up to the rest." Her words were not a promise. They were an invitation. And for the first time in years, I was ready to accept it. A year from now, I might tell you how the fence between our properties came down, how the paperwork that truly mattered ended up with both our names on it, how we fixed each other's broken water lines and broken habits, how the first time we shared a bed, we cried more than we touched, because it felt like stepping onto holy ground we never believed we deserved. I might tell you how I returned to Hannah's grave one spring afternoon with Olivia by my side and finally said goodbye without leaving her behind. How I thanked Hannah for loving me first so I could learn to love again. But that is all ahead of us. Right now, I am just a man standing in the dark with his neighbor's hand in mine, realizing I do not have to wait for ghosts to give me permission to live. Realizing that being good in bed is just another way of saying being good at loving someone who is still here. My neighbor once asked me, "You seem to be good in bed. Are you married?" Back then, I said, "No, I am still waiting for her." But tonight, as we walked toward the porch light and the promise of something new, I finally understood the truth. I was not waiting anymore. I was ready. And if you are listening to this, if you have made it all the way to the end, here is what I know now. Do not wait so long for the dead that you forget the living standing right next to you. Do not let fear or grief be the only things you are married to. Ask the hard questions. Answer them honestly, even when it hurts. And when love finds you again, do not turn away from it. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is choose to live.